Hello and welcome to today's Ask EMBN Tech Show, where we aim to field a ton of interesting topics and questions from you guys. Now in today's show, we're going to be focusing specifically on the whole business of Shimano AutoShift, which has actually generated a lot of interesting questions and opinions. Wow, AutoShift and FreeShift generated a huge amount of feedback from you guys. But before we get started on the nitty-gritty, let's put things in perspective, because after all, let's face it, many of us ride at different levels, and the ability to change gear in the same way as changing the gears in a car requires a specific skill, as does anticipating the terrain. Secondly, we all ride in different terrain. So for example, the needs of changing gear on a forest access path will be different to that of riding super technical uphill rocky rooty terrain as well. So possibly it could be that area in the middle, maybe AutoShift and FreeShift isn't for everybody, granted. But one thing's for certain is that AutoShift and FreeShift will give you an ability to generate better speed and flow through the environment that you ride in. And one final thing, and I think that is what I've noticed in the years from riding with different riders, different capabilities and fitnesses, is the ability to actually change gear and spin each motor at the optimum cadence is something which is definitely missing from a lot of riders. So AutoShift actually takes care of the thinking and gets you spinning at the right gear. A few takeouts, actually 5 takeouts from the feedback that you've all given us. I think the first one is the whole business of shifting under load. We shouldn't do it, but let's face it, because we do it, SRAM have actually designed their own T-type cassette derailleur to be able to deal with that whole business, but that's a different subject. Now, a lot of you said that you don't want this tech, what you want is MGUs. Let's be very clear here. This is actually AutoShift and FreeShift, and the latter does actually do the things that a gearbox bike will allow you to do, and that's the ability to switch into the right gear automatically so you can exit corners at the right speed. Another subject was on the subject of MGUs. What you all want is you want gearbox bikes, you want lightweight bikes. Let's get something clear, you can't have the both. On the subject of durability, Link Glide is said to be 300% more durable than Hyperglide. Let's get that out in the open there. And also the cost, a Link Glide derailleur is actually £120, just to put that in perspective. And on the side of new tech, the price of the new tech, nobody actually questioned the price of AutoShift and FreeShift and Link Glide. So a shifter, £140, derailleur, XT derailleur, about £280, just so you can get the prices on that product. Right, let's flow into your feedback. Actually, I've made a note here. Before you do so, have a look at the detail. Have a look at the technical detail involved at 7 minutes 38 on this video. There's no way in a million years you're going to be able to change gear with your thumb shifter in a situation like that. Now, first of all, 416-212. As long as the tech brings new riders to our sport, I'm all for it. This would be awesome for my spouse or as part of a rental fleet. Yeah, absolutely agree with you there. David King, 3699. FreeShift seems useful. The same as an internal geared hub. Not sure about AutoShift. And the shifting under load has me concerned. Still waiting for a real gearbox and belt drive system on a mainstream bike. Now, in reply to that, eMTB 7689 said, why does shifting under load matter? The tension on the chain is on the top between the chainring and the first few teeth on the sprocket. Where the chain is changing gears from the derailleur, there is actually not much tension at all. Love the banter there, guys. I also seem to think there's a hint from David King that MGU bikes will shift cleaner under load. I think that's still a bit of an unknown, David, at the moment. Anyway, Invisible Alex 07. What about timings? The best time to shift gear is before climbing instead of doing it during uphill. Totally. Problem is though, is in my experience when I'm out on the trail, I do actually come across unexpected moments. So I'll come around a corner, and there'll be a hill there and I'm not ready for it. Or maybe I'm in the middle of a horribly off-camber rocky rock face, as Louis behind the camera will point out, where he's scuttling across the cliff, where you haven't got, you're kind of wrestling on the handlebars, you're trying to get up there, your face is screwed up like this, and like changing gear is not an option. So what AutoShift does, it does it for you, and it takes the thinking out of your hands, allowing you, as I mentioned, to keep the flow going on the trail. Pete, F15. Only a good idea if they implement a continuous gear system. You don't really want the gears shifting without warning under load, plus it's an unnecessary strain on the drivetrain. Pete, this is a great one. That's actually where the custom presets on AutoShift FreeShift come in, which we didn't actually go into. We just wanted to give you an introduction to AutoShift FreeShifts, but we will go into the fine detail of that, which means you can fine tune it to your type of riding. Dan Buckman says, a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. More expensive, more complex, and gives bike manufacturers more reason to charge us more money. Well, actually, Dan, the problem does exist for newcomers, and shifting through tough terrain is sometimes very difficult. And on the expense, I've already covered that. As I said, £280 for the cassette, and £120 for the drill, and £140 for the shifters. So when it comes to more expensive, I don't think that's correct. The JZA, a system like that is reactive, whereas a good ride is proactive. Good for the noobs, I guess. The one feature that genuinely looks useful is the ability to shift while keeping the pedals level. This could be handy if you're going down through a gnarly section and you know that there's a punchy climb coming up. You could shift down, ready to climb, without having to risk clipping your pedals. Absolutely, JZA. I mean, folks, keep the comments coming. What we want to do is actually get some feedback from people who have actually been out there and ridden AutoShift and FreeShift bikes. Right, moving on. Andy Architect, noisy shifts. But if the chain and cassette are designed to take that extra abuse without shortening their life, then it seems like a great idea. Yes, like I mentioned, 300% more durability from Link Glide. I just want to point out as well, what we did out in Lake Garda is an extreme example. Most shifting, you won't do most shifting in situations like that. A lot of people will be riding forest extraction roads. They might be riding smooth single track with a mellow gradient, as I demonstrated. But like I said, we thought that an extreme example would be a great place to demonstrate it. But as I said, a lot of people won't get into situations like that. Now, moving on to MST Mind 879. I might have missed it, but does this have to be used on a Shimano motor, or is it just the drivetrain? Yes, it has to be with the Shimano EP801. Ian Harding, I like it. However, the question is, how long will the drivetrain last? As I mentioned, 300% long with the Link Glide. Draxel, how would you go on to retrofit this system on a bike with EP801 already installed? As far as I understand, you need a Di2 derailleur shifter and head unit. Do they need to be specific ones for that? Yeah, you need the new XT Di2 drivetrain, which is required. That's Link Glide. Otherwise, as mentioned, you need the EP801 mech and shifter. As long as you've got the corresponding 801 head unit, then I think you're good to go. Vicalax, I have the 2022 Spectral on in the same colorway as this. Will it work with the Di2 system, as I believe it's the EP8 motor and not the 801? I'm afraid, Vicalax, no, you do need the 801 motor. Okay, Barry Holt. This is a really interesting one. Now, Barry Holt says, that looks like it's going to really shorten the life of chains and cassettes by doing all the poor shifting we've been told not to do previously. Mixing that with SRAM's T-type system, on the other hand, would be fantastic. So, Barry, I'm confused here. Are you saying that you believe the SRAM story on shifting and not the Shimano one? Because this is actually... The Link Glide is actually designed for unexpected shifting under full torque. It's also an eMTB drivetrain as well, don't forget that. So SRAM have designed their cassette for shifting under load, which is the same thing, right? So Barry's actually had a reply from Ross Deakin, and he says, the cassette is all high alloyed case hardened steel now instead of it previously being part aluminium, slightly heavier, but that's no drama for e-power. So there's a few things to think about there. Guys, let us know what you think about the comments from Barry Holt and Ross Deakin. Meanwhile, Brendan Sweeney. So I think this is great. Now, if I could only get hold of one. That said, the Canyon Spectral CFR has the 12-speed version, and I'm pretty sure you were testing the 11-speed system. That's correct. According to Shimano, the 11-speed cassette, 3 times more durable than the other cassettes, which is the key in the eMTB. My thoughts? Yes, the new Canyon CFR, I think it's the top-end one, does actually come with the EP801 and the DI2 on it. Lionel Cook. Just like ABS on bicycles, another solution to a problem that doesn't really exist. Like I already mentioned, it just makes MTBs more expensive with tech for the tech sig. Well, I think we've covered off the expense side of things, but when you say that it's a problem that doesn't exist, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people who are new to the sport, they don't quite understand the relationship between cadence and getting the best power, or the peak, or not just the peak power, the best power out of your e-mounted bike. So like I said, when you've got a system which actually spins your cranks at the right cadence, or at least puts you in the right gear so you have the ability to spin in the right cadence, I can only see that as a good thing, especially for new people coming into the sport. Ian Harding. I like it. However, the question is, how long will the drivetrain last? Well, I guess, how long will the drivetrain last? Louis, the answer to that?
Depends how much you ride it.
Yeah, exactly. It depends how much you ride your bike, and also probably how well you maintain it. Someone like me, not very well at maintaining. Where you ride, the climate you're riding, the environment, the kind of, whether you ride trail centers. I mean, we had a situation about 6 years ago where a certain fork company introduced a new coating to their forks, and it simply wore out. And the reason for that was because the surfacing on trail centers acted like sand and just wore the kit out. So I think the answer to that question is, sadly, it depends. Okay, Georgia Guardian. SRAM released T-type transmission and now Shimano automatic transmission. The competition is great. It is, for sure. I mean, do you know what? To be honest, contrary to popular opinion, gonna get slammed on this one, SRAM T-Type actually does clunk a touch under load, especially, well, for me, going up super steep climbs, 95 kilos, maybe with a backpack as well. Yes, you know, it's not as smooth as many people make out. I mean, you know, we can all of us can shift in bad moments, and maybe with a bit of grit or stone in the cassette derailleur. So yeah. And then finally, Bock Attracts 5023. Seriously, Shimano and friends are just treating customers like continuing to push derailleurs and systems based on them. The gearbox motor combo already exists and is the only feature for e-bikes, but then they won't sell replacement cassettes, etc. EMBN knows this and have the power to help them push them onto the market, but they don't. Lots of vested interest here in the industry, and it is BS. Right, okay, let's get something straight. Why would I push something which I have absolutely no idea on the reliability side of things? And secondly, I'm not going to push something on people, or the channel in general is not going to push something on people when we don't actually know the impact of the handling of the bike out on the hill. So I don't actually agree on that. So the whole thing about lots of vested interest in the industry is bullshit. Look, I'm more than happy to meet up with you or actually go with the ride for anybody who's got no experience with AutoShift and FreeShift. And look, let's chat through it in a real world situation. Folks, thanks for joining us. Now, as I mentioned, there's the whole business of the fine-tuning of AutoShift and FreeShift, where you can custom set it to your rider weight, the type of riding you do. For example, riding on forest roads compared to Supertech is going to require a different setup each time. So, folks, thanks for joining us. As I said, any of you guys who got experience of riding AutoShift, FreeShift, let us know your comments down below. In fact, anything tech-related, hashtag #AskEMBNTech. And we'll try and field them, and we'll see you next time.